Hey guys, welcome in, welcome in. Just going to wait 2-3 more minutes just for people to arrive, and then we'll get underway with the webinar. Welcome everyone. To get started, you can put in the chat where you're joining us from, and again, we'll wait another minute or two, and we'll get underway with the webinar itself.
All right, Dan, do you think we can go ahead and get started?
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Kai. Just get started on the webinar. All right. So again, welcome everybody. Today's webinar is going to be titled Bright Ideas, and it's designing with LED strips. Kai, go ahead.
Sure, great. I am pleased to introduce our speaker today. This is Dan Lappin. He has a decade of experience in the lighting industry. Dan Lappin has developed a deep understanding of architectural lighting and its evolving technologies. Throughout his career, he has worked closely with architects, designers, and lighting professionals to create innovative, high-performing lighting solutions that enhance both aesthetics and functionality. His expertise spans product specification, application best practices, and the latest advancements in LED technology, making him a valuable resource for industry professionals looking to optimize their lighting designs. Dan Lappin is currently working as a sales manager for Everolight, overseeing sales from his home base in Portland, Oregon. So in other words, Dan knows exactly what he's talking about. You want to take it away, Dan?
Too kind, Kai. Thank you very much. Thanks for the intro. Okay, so yeah, just a quick run through as you guys are probably already aware and outlined in email. Just a little note on the program credits. So yes, it's registered with AIA CES for continuing professional education. So it doesn't include any content that may deemed or be construed to be an approval or an endorsement by the AIA, or any material or construction or any method or manner of handling, using, distributing, or dealing in any material or product. Questions related to specific materials, methods, and services will be addressed at the conclusion of the presentation. So again, if you have any questions, hit me up. Well, you can put them in the Q&A. We will answer those at the end. Credit earned from this, from the completion of this program, it will be reported to CES Records for all AIA members. And if you're not an AIA member, they're also available on request. So yeah, we've getting through that, all the legal stuff, all the bells and whistles out the way there, and we'll get to the webinar itself. So again, welcome. During this webinar, I will discuss some of the elements to consider when designing LED projects using LED strip lights. We'll look at different styles of lightings and fixtures, basically going through styles of lighting and fixtures, when to use that specific type, and then just a couple of design tips at the end. Some useful little tidbits there. Okay, so the 4 learning objectives, we'll break this down into 4. Number 1 is we'll identify, differentiate between different types of LEDs, different LED strips, understanding the unique characteristics and the different applications that you can use them in. Number 2, we'll determine the appropriate types of LEDs for specific needs, looking at different factors like functionality, aesthetic goals. Obviously, every space is unique, so we'll be looking at that too. 3, we'll apply the practical design tips to create, visually appealing space, and one that's an effective lighting solution for all different types of environments as well. And finally, number 4, we'll evaluate the impact of fixture selection, design choices, and how it affects the ambience and the functionality of a space for that perfect lighting solution. Okay, so so with LEDs, today we'll be exploring them, how they're versatile, their efficiency, and how easy they can be to use. We'll look at different styles, when to use them, and how to achieve the best lighting effects for various applications. Okay, so first module is styles of lighting and fixtures. First, we're going to look at the luminaire classification system. Some of you may be very familiar with that, others not. We'll go into detail in just a few moments. Basically, which helps categorize different fixtures on how their light is distributed. Then we'll explore looking at different styles of lighting, so from ambient lighting to task lighting and to accent. Subtle differences between them all, and we'll go through the ins and outs of those. And finally, we will wrap up by discussing illuminating vertical surfaces, which is a key technique for enhancing an architectural detail and creating visual depth. Okay, so here we have the luminaire classification system. It's made up of 3 components. Number 1 being the lamp, which is the actual light source itself. It could be like an LED module, the LED diode, the actual piece that is generating the light itself. Next is the fixture, which could be in the form of, like you see, a lampshade here, or an aluminum channel to house the LED in. So it's the housing basically that holds and supports the lamp. And finally, the full package that when it's brought together, that is known as the luminaire, which is the complete unit. It includes the light source, the housing, optics, and power components. So that the full piece itself, we refer to as the luminaire. Okay. So the luminaire classification system, it categorizes fixtures based on how they distribute light. And as you can see, we've got 6 different methods of how light is distributed here. Starting top left, going left to right, we have direct lighting. As the arrows show, it sends most of its light downwards. The next one along is general diffuse lighting. This one spreads light in all directions. Every direction, the light's coming out there pretty much equally. The third one is indirect lighting, which it's lighting upwards. The point is for the light to reflect off a surface. Starting at the bottom row on the left, we have semi-direct lighting. So most of the light is shooting downwards, just like direct lighting, but there is a little bit of an upward spill as well. So some fixtures will be built to guide the light and shine it in both directions. Next one is kind of a best of both worlds. It's pretty much 50-50, the direct and indirect lighting. It's pretty balanced. You've got the light coming up, shining off a surface, and you've got the direct light coming straight down, straight into the space itself. The final one is semi-indirect lighting, and this one is heavily skewed towards indirect lighting, shooting upwards, reflecting, and there's a little bit of spill coming out the bottom, a little bit of direct lighting, so that's to take in there. So LED strips themselves, they're typically used as this one top right as the indirect lighting. It's to create a soft ambient illumination shooting off ceilings, walls, or maybe architectural elements. So most projects, I guess, will be indirect lighting, but they can be in a mixture of the other ones. More and more as the years go by, over the last decade, LEDs have been getting brighter and brighter, and they're now a viable option for direct lighting. We'll look at the different lumen outputs a few slides down the line, just as an example of that. Okay, so here's an example of a direct lighting fixture utilizing an LED tape, neon style product. This one is purple or color changing RGB. So yeah, the great thing about using it as a direct, using neon as direct is Minimizing glare is crucial when using a lighting fixture in a space like this, especially on the stairs. You don't want to be seeing diodes. Everything wants to be nice and diffused. There's no light spill, as you can see. And it's on every stair riser here. It's looking nice and crisp. It looks like really nice for nice aesthetic, and it improves step visibility as well. This example, more of an architectural example in a kitchen here. You can see clearly you've got the over cabinet, the above cabinet, the under cabinet light shining on the countertop, and the toe kick as well. It's considered indirect because the light reflects off surfaces rather than shining directly onto the space to showcase something. It's a bit of a gray area. So with under cabinet lighting, the light's directed downwards on the countertop. Some would say perhaps that is direct. But yeah, the photo shows all three, and you can see how they improve the aesthetic. It's a really nice looking kitchen. I love this, the CCT selection and the overall functionality, especially the under cabinet there. In this example, the lights are probably layered, which is controlled separately. And again, we'll revisit that later in the presentation. Okay, styles of lighting. There are three that we're going to focus on here. The first one we'll break down is ambient lighting. So this one, it offers general overall illumination for the whole space. It's the foundation of the lighting package, the backbone of any lighting plan. For example, it could be a soft cove, a couple of lamps, maybe a wall fixture. Task lighting, this one is a lot more focused and practical. So it's used for activities, millions of different activities. It could be reading, cooking, grooming when it's on like a vanity mirror. So yeah, you could have it in a wood shop, kitchen counter, and again, yeah, different types of mirrors where something specific, there is a task at hand, hence the name, task lighting. Finally, accent lighting. This one highlights a specific feature or area like artwork, architectural details, or maybe could be plants. I mean, there's lots of different things there, but something that's drawing attention to an object or a specific space. Lastly, decorative lighting, it sometimes overlaps with accent lighting, but it can stand on its own. This is one that's primarily about the visual appearance or style rather than the functionality. So accent fixtures are more likely to be focused, and decorative aims to just add more elegance to a space. Okay, so here, as you can see, are the 4 different types of lighting, including the good old, the unbeaten day lighting coming from the sun itself, which of course we can rely on during the day. But otherwise, when that does dim and we need to use our own sources of lighting, you can see the different examples. So ambient lighting is those can lights in the ceiling. That's providing the general illumination for a space. The task lighting here, I personally would have put some under the cabinet. Some LED strips would look really nice under there, but the pendants above the island are doing a really nice job as well. That's giving you essential illumination for anyone sitting at that island, could be eating, prepping food, reading a book. The ambient lighting itself probably wouldn't be enough if you need to do something with a bit more detail at countertop level. So those pendants are coming in nicely to cover the bases of the task lighting. Finally, accent lighting, you can see inside of the cabinets on the right-hand side. You've got some directional lighting to highlight things in those shelves and give a bit more pop and just give a bit more elegance to the space itself with the focus on those cabinets. Okay, so looking in detail a bit more with ambient lighting. I'd mentioned before, but LED tape was initially designed as an indirect light. They weren't as bright as they are today. Of course, there are tons of high-powered options on the market in excess of 700, 800, maybe 1,000 lumens per foot. Yeah, so some manufacturers will offer those high output or very high output lights. Some of them offer multi-row tapes where you get 2, 3, 4 kind of joined together, like a little bit of a wider tape, could be up to 2 inches, just to bolster the light output to create sufficient ambient lighting to light up a full room. So using a tape on the ceiling that was say 8 to 10 feet plus high was kind of seen as a strange thing 10 years ago. But these days you get lights bright enough. If you use enough of them and they're bright enough, you can really bring enough light into the space like you can see in this picture. So this example is in a lobby. It's used to create a really well-lit atmosphere through the cove lighting it's using there in conjunction with a couple of can lights, with chandelier lights, a couple of other fixtures. So yeah, you could strategically place multiple strips along the cove, or you could use a really, really high output light, assuming it's dimmable, which is something we always recommend. So it achieves the necessary illumination for both an inviting and a functional environment. It shows a high-powered LED and how it can be used, to create ambient lighting when combined with those other fixtures that I'd mentioned. I definitely like the look of this space. Okay, task lighting. LED strip lights, as lots of you are aware, are excellent for task lighting, given this kitchen application, especially under cabinet, is far and away the most popular application when using this type of LED. Could be used in different personal spaces like an office desk or a reading nook. In this kitchen photo, the focus is on the under cabinet lighting, providing something bright, focused illumination for, again, tasks like cooking and prep work where you don't have to rely on the ambient lighting creating higher shadows. You've got that light just above where your hands are, and that is going to be crucial for those tasks. So by installing LEDs under the cabinets, you can provide precise lighting without having a bulky lighting fixture. I know 15, 20 years ago, they were much bigger and bulkier. They're a lot more discreet these days. So everything stays clean and functional. Finally, accent lighting is used to highlight specific features or focal points in a space. It could be architectural details, it could be artwork, it's focused and directional lighting just to draw attention to something. So because of this, a lot of decorative lighting or accent lighting, they kind of, like we said before, they're a little bit interwoven, they do interlap, all falls together there. There is a distinction, as we mentioned before. Decorative lighting is visual appeal, and accent lighting is more about enhancing the functionality of the space. So here's an example, that light. So ignoring the under cabinet lights, which are a little brighter just above, there's a light in the bar area. It's providing accent lighting to highlight the bar itself and the stools, and you can see it's creating a bit of an atmosphere there as well. Again, enhancing the space. Decorative lighting, it's often placed in its own category. Like we've said a few times, it does overlap with accent lighting because it's primarily focused on highlighting a fixture itself rather than having a functional role like, say, task lighting or accent lighting. So here's an example of decorative lighting. It's in a bar or a nightclub setting. Colored lighting is used to create dynamic effects on the dance floor. Those illuminated squares, they add a visually striking element to this space. They turn the lighting into part of the design and like the ambience of the overall ambience of the venue itself. It's meant to enhance the aesthetic that you can see, build an atmosphere. There's no real functional purpose here. But yeah, it's more of an accent, just something to draw a little focus there. We recently saw someone do something like this, but it was kind of flipped. It was at a school cafeteria, and they'd use color changing lights in mini little coffers in the ceiling to create different types of effects, such as school holidays, the holidays in general, school colors, and it had that RGB functionality to kind of fully customize that. But that was a great example of decorative lighting when used with the other fixtures in the cafeteria itself. Okay, so when we talk about illuminating vertical surfaces, wall washing is a technique used to light most of the wall, ideally the entire wall, but evenly. It creates a smooth, uniform depth across a surface. It doesn't really add depth or texture. The point is to wash, hence the name, and light the full wall itself. It can kind of be done with color changing RGB, but that's more just to add a bit of a splash of color rather to give even functional illumination. So wall washing, the main point, the primary use is it's used to make a space feel larger than it is. So when white lights are used, it's quite easy to achieve that focus. You get a consistent, expansive light across the wall. It gives the illusion, when using white light, just to reiterate, rather than color, gives an illusion of a bigger open space, which is why people like to do this. It will require a higher output LED that's correctly angled and it's positioned well enough away from the wall to create this effect. When done properly, it will really open up a space that before looked a little bit more claustrophobic, a little smaller. So on the other hand, we have wall washing. The point is to blast and open things and make the room look bigger than it is. We've got wall grazing. This technique It's used to accentuate the texture of a surface. It creates a more dramatic lighting effect. So unlike wall washing, which uses like a broad, even light, wall glazing focuses on just a little narrow beam closer to the wall, and it's more for an architectural effect rather than to light the whole space up. So it's done by, in this example in the photo, it's done by downlighting. It can be done in the floor as well as an uplight to graze the bottom of a wall and draw attention to the bottom half of the wall. It's great for highlighting architectural details, specifically on a textured surface like the one you can see in this photo. So it casts shadows. This one, unlike wall washing, does emphasize the depth. So it's easier to do with LED tape as it can be done with different output LEDs. You don't need the brightest LEDs. And so you can use RGB, you can use a lower lumen output LED strip. It looks great on brick, on waves, or kind of shells, or as you can see, these little wooden slats. It's a really nice little effect. It's done on a smaller scale on the little niche above the bathtub and in the ceiling itself. It looks really, really nice in this space. Okay, so when to use specific fixture types? Yeah, so there's a few things to take into consideration for every project. Every space, every project is going to be unique, including the client's needs. So first off, what are the lighting demands from the client, and what is the light actually going to be used for? So an office obviously is going to require a lot more lumens than a sauna or a yoga studio. That's one of the first things I like to hammer out with clients when a new project falls on my lap. Need to know what the light's for and how it's going to be used. Next, the CCT, the color temperature, is crucial to suit the space's aesthetic. Doing things like matching other luminaires in that environment. I've seen some clients mix and match really cool, bright looking LEDs with warmer ones. Unless that's kind of the point, it can look a little off-putting, a little strange in that space. But again, everyone's got their styles and tastes. But for the most part, I do like to stay consistent with the CCTs and match those. Finally, when selecting the right channel and lens, it can really influence a few things about the lights, including the beam angle. So the LED strip itself, when it's naked, unhoused, it shines at 120 degrees, but that can easily be altered depending on which channel you use, the heights of the sides of the channels, the height, the depth of it, I should say, different types of lenses to focus or open the light even more. Okay, so how much light is actually needed? So it's not always straightforward. Context, again, is very important. You have to consider the different types of spaces and who uses it. Too little light, you've got an ineffective space. Too much, you've got discomfort. So just like life, with lighting, it's all about finding that perfect balance. The IAS has some different things to consider here, and that is visual acuity, older users using the light, and again, what the space is used for. So starting with visual acuity, IES says the more detail we need to see, the higher the required light levels. Seems obvious, but it's good to put it out there. For example, your task light, like reading fine print, assembling machinery, small parts, you're going to need a heck of a lot more light than you would in an ambient accent situation. Lighting for older crowds, it's interesting. So as we age, our eyes, they do deteriorate. And there have been studies done that show a 60-year-old user may need twice as much light as a 20-year-old does to get the same level of visibility. And so this is going to be important in places like senior living, healthcare environments, hospitality spaces for diverse age groups. Having the ability to use bright lights, of course, again, dimmable, I'm always about dimming those, is something that we need to consider. Types of activity, again, probably it could go without saying, but just worth mentioning anyway. A casual lounge hospitality setting is going to use lower light than a commercial kitchen or an office or a lab where you need high precision lighting. IES provides specific foot candle recommendations, actually. So for a general office space, they recommend about 30 to 50 foot candles, whereas, say, a jewelry display might be 75 to 150 to enhance visibility and the aesthetics there. And again, for anyone that doesn't know, the rough conversion, foot candles basically is the imperial measurement, and lux is the metric measurement. So 1 foot candle equates to about 10 lux more or less. It's something like 10.4 or 10.7, but it's about a 10-to-1 conversion in case you see the two pop up a little bit. Okay, so how much light is actually needed? We'll start at the bottom end and we'll work our way up, or well down, as you'll see in these slides, but we start here at about 100 to 150 lumens per foot. Best uses, so they're perfect for things like toe kicks in kitchens, in bathrooms. It creates a nice subtle glow for nighttime navigation of those spaces without overwhelming the user or the space itself. A low impact accent cove, perhaps, like you can see in this photo. So it's ideal for decorative cove lighting, just like this one. Could be an upscale restaurant, it could be a hotel lobby, just to create a bit of ambience, with softer lighting. As you can see, it's not drawing attention to any of the fixtures there. It's definitely not a task light, just to create that little ambience for the user. It works well for stair accents as well, as we saw previously using the color changing option. Adds enough illumination without being a distraction, and it becomes a safety feature. And then another one, I'd say fourth and final use would be maybe in some shelves or a display case, just a gentle glow. It's defining the space rather than overpowering the items that are on show and drawing focus. Rather than drawing the focus, it's just to kind of just put a little bit of light in there. And again, I've said it a million times, creating an atmosphere, a little bit of ambience. Next step up would be 200 to 300 lumens per foot. Perfect for under cabinet lighting in kitchens. You can do food prep at this level. It's not too intense, given it's only a couple of feet above your hands. It's not overpowering. Most people typically use 2700, 3000 Kelvin at residential level, especially on a more classic looking kitchen with a little bit more wood in there. Whereas a neutral, more modern kitchen might use 3500, 4000, just to suit the style and the aesthetic of the room itself. It's very rare I see people use above that, 5,000, 6,000. That's more for it could be like a lab kitchen, a commercial kitchen perhaps, where precision's everything. But at comfort, it's in and around 3,000. That seems to be the sweet spot. At 200 to 300, this can actually be used as a low acuity task light. Things like reading recipes or a little bit of desk lighting, where your workstation's just a couple of feet under the light source itself. So it's a great choice when high intensity downlights are not needed. This could be used also in an accent cove. Could be in commercial, hospitality, or a modern residential space. It's going to add a bit more punch than your 100 or 150 lumens. Again, it's fully dimmable. So a few considerations for use with this one. Diffusion's key. Without it, especially in a kitchen setting, a cabinet where you're only 18, 20 some inches away from the light source itself, diffusion's important. You can hit hot spots and heavy on a reflective surface like a countertop, like the one you see here. So using a frosted lens or a deeper channel, you're going to get a smoother look, and you'll get away from scalloping or seeing the little dots on the individual LEDs. Next step would be 350 to 500. We're in what most people would call high output at this range. This one is better for a high acuity task light. Again, it could be used for cooking, reading, crafting, using in a wood shop maybe. Great for under cabinet lighting. Again, it's dimmable. It doesn't have to always be at 500 lumens. So when high brightness is needed, this is going to be your go-to. Again, this one can be used in a cove with supplemental lighting. It's going to give the right balance of background and task lighting for spaces like, say, a lobby or an open office. So, at hospitality, commercial, just a bigger space, this is probably something I would consider to use. It can be layered with ambient lighting to give you the functionality of this bright light, and then just something more atmospheric with a lower output light. Finally, 500 to 1,000 lumens per foot. This one is going to be great for just a significantly bigger space like the one that you can see in the photo. So it's great for task lighting, and it's also great for your general lighting here, your ambient lighting when the room is bigger. So in ambient cove, if it's a large room with a high ceiling, you're going to want over 500 lumens per foot just to create even illuminations, like spaces like this lobby. A commercial corridor with a high ceiling, it's going to be bright, inviting, Could be office use, hospitals, schools. So you get great visibility without it looking too harsh. So some of this is indirect, but the way it bounces and reflects at the ceiling, working in conjunction with those other light sources, it's still looking very elegant without being overwhelming. It can also be used um, as like a suspended downlight. I've seen people hang them down from the ceiling, especially in like an open office or a conference room. You get nice uniform lighting and you avoid any heavy shadows. So when using these, definitely, especially if it's going to be direct lighting or close to a surface, you want to be using diffusers, and definitely dimmable option to prevent the glare as well. Okay. These ones are really popular for situations or environments populated by older adults, those over 60. Again, over 60s do need more light. It's going to be crucial, and this is going to be just the guy for a lot of those projects. Tunable white. So yeah, tunable white, it's used to mimic daylight, support well-being, productivity, and comfort. A lot of people use it to align with our body's circadian rhythm, being like when we're like it promotes a natural sleep cycle. So alertness with 5 to 6,000 Kelvin at the peak of the day when you're needing your most focus, and then early morning, late at night, that wind down, softer 2,700, 3,000 Kelvin in the evening. When speccing this, beware of the lumen spec. So lots of manufacturers will list the full lumen output, could be 500 lumens per foot. But the way that most tunable light works, that's very rarely the case. For example, when it's showing the cooler white, only half the chips are on, and when it's the softer white, the other half are on. And somewhere in the middle, they kind of offset each other. So if a spec does say 500 lumens per foot, again, this does depend on the controller. I've seen some that operate these a little differently. You're typically only getting 200 lumens per foot there. So just something to keep in mind if you're comparing that with a static white and wondering, why isn't this as bright? Basically, the soft white and the cool white, they offset each other to create the different CCTs, and you're only really getting about half the stated brightness. So best practices for using this light, use a dimmable tunable white system with a consistent lumen output and smart controls that adjust the color temperature, ideally based on the time of day or the occupancy of the room, just for maximum energy efficiency. RGB color changing lights, they add dynamic visual interest and mood, but they should be used very thoughtfully. So too much can definitely overwhelm a space. Some people don't like to use this at all. Some people go a little crazy on it, put it all over their space. This house here, I saw some photos of all the other rooms. They kitted out pretty much every room. Love the effect it had, but sometimes too much color can be a little bit over the top. But again, preferences are preferences. Lumen specs on RGB, they're very misleading. So they're often, you could see an RGB light that's listed at 76 lumens per foot look just as bright as a white light that's say 150, 180. Basically, the human eye perceives these wavelengths on color changing a little differently, and it can look a lot brighter than the specs say. So I always say, take it with a pinch of salt when looking at those lumen numbers for RGB, because it's often a lot brighter than it looks on the packet itself. Okay, using specific CCTs is something I always like to get clarification on from clients. So yeah, a functional space with task lighting is typically going to be cooler lighting, 4 to 5,000 Kelvin. Relaxation is going to be warmer, 2,700, 3,000. Warmer light is for comfort. The cooler light is going to be more for functionality, but the two can cross over. Again, time of day, cooler light is used in the morning to ramp us up a little bit, and warmer light in the evening to bring us down for circadian support. Warmer lights, they are specific, not specifically, but they're usually geared more towards environments that have a more classic look, use a lot more wood, brings out and enhances the natural warmth of the room. Again, 2,700, 3,000 is perfect for situations like this. A cooler white can really wash out the richness of the wood, and the environment feels a little bit more sterile, especially in one like this. I think it would look a little weird with a high Kelvin light. But great for dining rooms, living rooms, bedrooms. Summary, fantastic for most residential use, especially if it's not an ultra modern place. Something neutral is great for some like a space in the middle here. Like this kitchen's looking good with a 3,500 light. Gives a more balanced look, so it's not too warm and it's not too cool. It enhances a clean, fresh feel, and it complements warm accents like wood and textiles. Again, this can be used throughout a residence. For a more ultra-modern or even industrial space, 5,000 plus up, 62, 6,500, it's going to enhance concrete, steel, high contrast designs. So yeah, it mimics a daylight, gives a very crisp and modern industrial look, adds more clarity, and it can really make details stand out. Okay, so when selecting the right channel and lens, which we do recommend this for the majority of installations, even if it's an indirect fixture, there are a few things, well, quite a number of things to consider here. So when you consider these, you're making a decision that impacts the performance and the aesthetics of the fixture itself. Channels, which are also known as extrusions in this industry, they help with heat dissipation, extending the lifespan of the LEDs, and lenses control how the light itself is dispersed. We'll go through some of these 7 key factors. Okay. So first thing to consider is the size and the shape. A slim profile is going to be easy to hide. It's nice and discreet, perfect for under cabinets. Larger ones will enhance the design. Coves, the way it directs the light, bounces the light, pendants, for example. Mounting style, most of these can be surface mounted. Some can be recessed in millwork. Some can be suspended to make a bit of a statement there. And these days, there are options that let you drywall straight into a wall itself for your profile, direct lighting. They can be application specific, whether it's stairs or corners and flexible extrusions. They cater to unique needs. So they comes in all shapes and sizes, different steps, different coves, just to how to move and direct the light. Plenty of options out there on the market. From a functional perspective, they're fantastic for heat dissipation. A bigger aluminum channel is going to extend the LED lifespan by managing the heat. It's going to pull the heat away from your diodes, the lights themselves, and the resistors, all the important stuff. Durability, profiles are a lot more robust than just a naked LED tape is. It's going to protect against damage, dust, maybe a little bit of moisture. We do recommend using wet rated lights for what is a wet rated environment, but having a channel will help that as well. So yeah, the right form factor ensures seamless integration and long-term performance, which is crucial. Okay, we'll look at the different lenses and light transmission. Okay, so there are often 3, sometimes more options, but 3 options for lenses themselves. A clear lens gives you maximum transmission. You're only losing maybe 5-10% of the light output. Issue is it will expose the LED hotspots. It's great for task lighting where it's not a reflective surface underneath or a display, as you're maximizing your light output. Frosted lens, you may be losing 20-30% of the light. It's kind of a balance between diffusion, reducing glare, great for general illumination. Excuse me, and then the last one would be an opal and matte. There's lots of different terms to describe this. A big light loss, sometimes as much as 50 to 60% loss, but it's going to create a really smooth, uniform looking fixture, no hot spots, will reduce brightness, though it's better to use and overshoot on brightness and let that diffuser cut some of the lumens out to get that nice linear look. So to recap, max brightness is clear lens, balanced diffusion would be a frosted lens, and the smoothest look for a direct fixture would be a matte or opal option. Okay. Aperture size is something to consider in LED channels. So a wide aperture is going to spread the light nice and evenly, great for cove, ambient lighting. A narrow aperture is going to focus light, just to kind of highlight and just give a nice little aesthetic there. So LED visibility, the LEDs, they're a lot more, well, with a smaller, a thinner aperture. The LED diodes, they're a little bit more exposed. The wider ones will diffuse them and make it look a little bit more seamless. From an aesthetic point of view, a narrow aperture offers a sleek look. A wider one makes is more of a design feature. So yeah, just to recap that one, if you want a focused beam of light, a narrow aperture, and if you want it to look a little bit more even, a bit more seamless, a little bit more spread, of course, a wide aperture. Okay, diffusion levels in LED channels. For lower diffusion, Focused light with visible LED diodes can be ideal for accent or task lighting, but it can create hotspots and harsh edges. Medium diffusion, again, this goes often hand in hand with the type of covers used. It creates a balanced light with softened edges, reduces your glare. It does maintain the brightness, and it's great for general or under cabinet lighting. Finally, high diffusion is going to be even and seamless light, but there are no visible diodes. If you get the right channel and a lens that's frosted enough, it should look completely linear. Again, it does reduce brightness. Okay, so here's an example of some cove lighting that a client did in a domed ceiling. As you can see, it's using green. This one specifically is RGB color changing. It's very well done, well executed in my opinion. It looks nice and even. It's wrapped around the inside of the dome. The light is climbing pretty much to the center of the dome itself. You can't see any hot spots, any scalloping, as it's sometimes known in the industry. It's done around the perimeter, and for me, I'd say 10 out of 10 installation here. So this light, I know that the light was typically set to white. It was a 2700 softer white to match the other CCTs in the area, as you can see on the underside of the stairs. But for different events and different parties, they really love to have the option to mix it up and have different colors up there. On the other hand, this one is a bad example of a cove light installation. So as you can see, you can heavily see the dots. It is scalloping like crazy there. It's not a seamless installation. It doesn't look like it's diffused too well. It looks like they're using an LED tape with a wide pitch, which again is the gap from one LED to the next. And there is no lip to hide any of those imperfections. So this one is not a great example of cove lights. As you can see, the fixture is so noticeable rather than the light effect, which is what I imagine people were going for instead. When selecting the right channel and lens, something that comes into play sometimes the color of the extrusion. So most of them in the industry would be the silver aluminum look. So the silver extrusions, the white ones, they work to reflect the light for increased brightness and efficiency. They can obviously blend well with lighter color interiors. Fantastic for general illumination. Black extrusions, I see them spec'd a lot more these days. They absorb light, they reduce glare and reflections. Obviously, it's going to look, you want to be using a black extrusion if you have a really dark environment and you don't want the white and silver to pop out and distract somebody. The black one's going to look really discreet, depending on the style of the room. So yeah, in summary, for max brightness and efficiency, the white and the silver extrusions are a better option. And to reduce the glare and look more subtle in a darker room, of course, you'd want to use a darker channel. In this instance, it would be black. Beam angles in lighting. As I mentioned before, the beam angle of an LED is 120 degrees when it is uninterrupted with a extrusion or a cover. Wide beam is considered 100 to 120. So you're going to get a very broad light distribution, which is great for general ambient lighting for most applications. Some lenses will further reduce that to medium beam, which is about 60 to 100 degrees. You get a balanced light for accent lighting, a highlighting fixtures, but without fully focusing. So if it's something bigger to highlight, you might want to cut that beam down just a little bit. Narrow beam is 15 to 45 degrees. It's going to be very focused and sharp light. It's good for task lighting or accent lighting, and it's going to emphasize, like we said before, like say the wall grazing or artwork or architecture. And then a very narrow beam is all the way down from 5 to maybe 15 degrees, which is a highly concentrated light. It's like a pinpointed, for lack of a better term, a spotlight almost. So it gives maximum precision to highlight a very specific point. You don't see these too much in the industry, but they definitely exist, something that fully focuses the light down to almost 5 degrees. It's literally almost a little line. So yeah, to recap, general illumination, a wide beam is going to be fine. If you're looking to accent or use it as feature lighting, medium's great. But if you need that sharpness, that precision, then a very narrow beam angle is something that you want to be speccing for that. Okay, so angled channels. This one, as you can see in the photo here, it fits into a little 90-degree corner. It casts the light at 45 degrees. It plays a really key role in how the light is directed. It can shape the light output. This one is 45 degrees. You see lots between 30 and 45. Well, this style was normally 30 to 45 degrees the way it shines. Allows the light to be directed towards specific areas. You can kind of move where you want the light itself. It's nice for wall washing if it's far enough away from the wall itself. You can hit that at an angle or highlight like an architectural detail. And they're really popular in retail environments, galleries, exhibition spaces, as you can direct where you want the light itself. So just a couple of tips here when implementing linear lighting, in this example, strip or tape lighting. Use a frosted or a matte lens, as we mentioned before. So it properly diffuses the light evenly. It reduces the diodes, as you can see, looking up at this fixture, and helps to eliminate any spotting, any scalloping, any heavy reflections. So it's going to soften the light, minimize the intensity and reflections created by this LED tape. Again, as we just mentioned a couple of slides back, this angled lighting is great, especially in applications like these. So if you do mount it at a slight angle, let's say hidden by a countertop or a desk that has a lip, especially on the countertop, you're not just casting the light straight down on the countertop. You're hitting a little bit of the backsplash. You're hitting the countertop without any glare. It's going to look really, really seamless. You shouldn't see any heavy reflection at all using this one. It's a simple technique, but it can make a huge difference in the overall look and feel of your lighting design. Here is a bad example of how stair lighting should be done. The lights on this one ideally would have some kind of lip on the front to put these on the riser. Clearly, you can see that isn't the case in this photo. And the lights, assuming they are dimmable, they look way, way too bright. I guess nobody will be tripping on those stairs, but unless you can dim those down, I'd say it's almost a hazard. Again, the light spec for this are way, way too bright. I would definitely recommend using a different style of channel to redirect the light and using something a little bit less bright. So avoid doing something like this. Backlighting a countertop, the best optimal solution for this would be to use a light sheet. They're really amazing for these types. So whether it's a countertop, whether it's a really nice piece, like an onyx piece on the wall, light sheets are going to give you full and even coverage. This can be achieved with LED strips, but you have to use tons and tons of them to minimize the gap. For example, if the space underneath to put the lights isn't big enough, if the piece on top isn't thick enough, if you use LED tape and there's more than half inch from one to the next, it's just going to look like tiger stripes, not something that you want to be throwing on your clients. So for something like this, when it's available, light sheets is definitely my way to go for coverage here. Layering is a great approach. It creates a dynamic functional space, something we mentioned in one of the earlier slides. Ideally, avoid putting, let's say you have your above cabinet lights, your under cabinet lights. It could be something in a cabinet or a toe kick as well. You could have 3 to 4 different layers, different levels here. We do recommend trying to avoid putting them on the same control so that you can control them all independently to adjust each layer to suit like different moods, activities, or time of day. In California, we have the Title 24 Energy Code. I know some other states are using that these days. That one does require separate controls over different lighting zones, and that's mainly for energy efficient purposes. So best practices, try and divvy those up, cut them up in a few different controls, whether that's switches, app control, sensors, however you want to do that. It's nice to break those up. This one is something that is important, can't be stressed enough, is using a channel on top of all the amazing different reasons that we outlined about 20 minutes back. It does act as a safety barrier against dirt as well. So LDD is a big thing. It's a big thing. That is lumen dirt depreciation. So it happens when dust or dirt builds up on the lights. It makes them dimmer over time. They're hell to clean if you're trying to scrub. Well, I say scrub, daintily pick any dust or dirt between your diodes. Putting them in the channel is just going to help them in terms of the dust buildup, and they're not going to get dimmer over time. Really easy to wipe down a channel compared to messing around between the diodes themselves. Most of these channels are going to be really easy to clean. Some of them you can even remove the covers to help clean them. It's going to keep the lights brighter for longer, reduce the need for repairs, replacements. So yeah, using a channel, it doesn't just keep them looking good, it also helps them last longer, perform better. You're going to get your 50,000 plus hours of use using something simple as a cover there. So yeah, to wrap up, I want to say thank you very, very much for attending. We'll send the participant list to IES for credits. You can provide your AIA number via email if you need to see you as well. Any questions? Any questions in the chat there? If so, I can answer those now.
Yeah, Dan, it looks like we do have a question. Would you recommend strip lights for sign projects or other form factors?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, potentially you could use a strip light to light a sign. Like if it's like a rectangular sign where you're lighting the inside, you could easily light the perimeter, shine that light in the middle itself. If it's going to be more individual letters, it can get tricky, divvying and dicing up, and there's tons of splicing to use with strip lights. So sign modules are perfect. You can string those together. They're all low voltage, they're dimmable. You can get color changing options, white lights. So yeah, the sign modules are fantastic when you have lettering, but if it's just going to be a simple, say, rectangular linear sign, then I think a strip light, likely a wet rated one if it's outdoors, could work well for those applications.
Fantastic. Well, it looks like that was the only question in the chat. So thank you guys so much for attending. And as I mentioned before in the chat, this will be sent out. Oh, somebody else asked, is neon lighting good for task lighting?
I've seen neon lighting used for task lighting. Most of the neon options out there, I'd say if it's RGB color changing, probably not. It's not something I'd encourage. It can be done with a white neon light, depending what the space is from the fixture to the space itself. It's normally on the lower end in terms of lumen output. So I would recommend using a standard LED tape. However, if it's like a curved surface and you need a fixture that can bend left to right, like a lot of neon can, then yeah, perhaps it's a reasonably good option if that's something that you're faced with. But again, if it's a standard looking space for most of your cabinets, office lighting, I would go for a standard LED tape just to get a bit more punch to get you 300 lumens per foot or so.
We also have one last question. Are there cases when it is absolutely necessary to talk to a lighting designer or decorator?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the manufacturers these days will have the knowledge and experience, based on all the projects that they have built up over time. But yeah, if you're looking to speak to an expert in speccing, a light designer is going to be your person for that. Whether it's an architect with a knack for that or someone who is a light designer first and foremost, I definitely encourage speaking to a light designer.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, sorry, I was trying to wrap it up a little early there, I guess. But anyway, unless there are any other questions, wow, I can't talk anymore. Sorry, you guys. This broadcast is going to be available on our everolight.com resources page. So we'll be sending a link out to that. And as long as we have everybody's information if we didn't get your AIA number for some reason when you signed up, just email us at info@everolight.com and we can make sure we have that. But if you gave it to us when you signed up, you should be good to go. And thank you so much for coming out and attending this presentation with us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time coming out this morning or afternoon.